教えて、陽子先生。
It's a beautiful day. You are enjoying your RPG game and built up a team of waifus or husbandos, or both, and have them equipped with the gear, tuned up, their skills, stats, perks, all the works. You then face endgame content, be it a boss with a timer, an encounter with a specific mechanic, or straight up a super boss. And before you know it, your waifu husbando is kissing the ground wondering what the hell went wrong. Hello Foxtrot, it's me again, and I am back with another Teach Me episode. And this time it is how to build a team for endgame content in a game with RPG elements or most gacha games. Little thing you should know about me. When it comes to gacha games, I always build waifu teams. The only tier list I subscribe to is the fun tier list. A character's strength and weakness is something I am aware of. I educate myself about that. But it does not affect if they get placed in a team or if they get benched. I also do not pull for dupes for characters, specifically because I am always saving up for the next waifu. Now that you know about how I build my teams and what my mentality is around gacha games and RPGs, now you kinda know what to expect in this video. I cannot exactly teach you stuff like quick swapping as good as Wallenstein's, because I am not as good. But what I can teach you, however, is how to build a foundation and provide you the building blocks that can get you closer to being able to pull off crazy stuff like you see in Wallenstein's YouTube videos or your preferred streamer or general videos on YouTube. Now, to start off, as Panam said in Cyberpunk 2077, assess, assemble, action. In other words, knowledge is power. It is important to do this in this particular order because, for example, if you go in a fight, which is essentially the action step, with your favorite and best built team and end up not hitting the mark, you'll end up desperately searching for answers and asking yourself questions that does not directly address the encounter itself. You might end up asking yourself, why is my Constellation 3 Zani not clearing this? Why is my God Roll disc or artifacts or relics not seem to cut it for this fight? This happens when you skip the first two steps and do action first. To demonstrate, let us take Zani tackling the middle Tower of Adversity in Wuwa, as well as Zenless Zone Zero's Deadly Assault as an example. Assess. Look at what you have right now. Look at your character roster. Who is the most built? What role they play? Are their equipment or artifacts god rolls, or are they at least using the recommended stat? Who can they synergize with who you have right now? What weapon do they have? And then you look at the encounter. What modifiers does the encounter have? Does this fight give a damage buff for using your ultimate? Perhaps using your skill? Does this fight have bonus damage for a specific element? Are there resistances and vulnerabilities for the enemies or the boss? Is the boss weak to your least built team? Are they perhaps resistant to your best team? Once you have assessed, you now know what you are up against and what tools you have to resolve the encounter. Step number 2, assemble. Now, knowledge is power, like I said earlier. And with that power in your hands, it is time to give it form. Now, this is where we get into the territory of theory crafting, which is how I define it as the art of visualizing or mentally formulating a possible solution to a problem before you've even tested it. So you see that this fight favors Spectro teams. And you have Zani, but you do not have Phoebe, who is, by all accounts and many opinions out there, even WUA themselves on their website, is Zani's best battery. But what you do have is Rover, who is essential in a Zani team if you do not have Phoebe. You double check Rover's skills, what gives Spectrofrazzle, which is her skill and liberation. You also take note of the cooldown of the skill, how much Concerto energy it gives, as well as the cooldown and how much Concerto energy the liberation gives. So now you have a nice guesstimate of how many skills you need to use per liberation to get Zani's install meter as high as possible before you are forced to outrow as Rover and intro as Zani. You also have a good idea of how much time will be spent as Rover, how much you need to spend as Rover to get this done. Now, this is the key concept of the assemble step. With the power of knowledge, you can now materialize it into a weapon. Is it a weapon that can brute force a fight? So, for example, you maybe have arguably the best team, which is Zani, Phoebe, Shorekeeper, which will really give you the means to brute force a fight. Or perhaps what you have is something that requires more finesse or technique, which is how I would define a Zani Rover team. After you have your weapon in hand, now it is time to use it and put it into action. Step 3. Action. So, the encounter begins and you know what the enemy's attacks will be, what it is vulnerable to, what bonuses you get for doing combat-related objectives. And sometimes it's not about how perfect you are doing things. Like, okay, it's fine to get hit a couple of times, you mess up your rotations, but that is the whole point of assess, assemble, and action. You know what you have, you know what you are capable of. You have built a team with a specific goal in mind. And for this one, it's to parry the hell out of this boss. So perhaps it's not the damage that's the most rewarding for this fight, since you know your team is not exactly built to brute force it. After all, my main DPS for this fight is not even strong against this boss. So you realize that this encounter has bonus mechanic rewards or points every time you parry and every time you succeed in parrying 3 times in a row. So you made sure your team has at least 2 melee parry characters, which is, in this case, Trigger and Nicole. My Chuyen only is, well, Cinemascape 0. Your S-rank agent may be early season characters with no dupes. And depending on who your DPS is, maybe they do not have their SIG, which is reasonable. But you planned around that, and you know that you cannot win this fight with damage alone. And you have to really use the combat rewards that this encounter has, and in some cases, you have to get a bit lucky with this fight. In the sense that you want this boss to use a specific series of attacks that has very visual cues and tells that you know the moment you see this attack, once it does the slam and then it jumps backwards into the missile barrage, it's time to parry. So you know what attack you want to happen often, so you can parry often, so you can get more points. These 3 steps are essential to any endgame encounter or boss in any gacha game or RPG. After all, defeating a time limit encounter within 1 minute or 5 seconds before you hit the deadline of the highest achievable rank has no difference in reward in most games at least. So if you have 5 minutes to clear an encounter to get all that desirable premium currency for your next waifu or husbando, then you have to clear it in 5 minutes. Not in under a minute, but 5 minutes. Knowledge can be your friend here if you know how to use it. And of course, do the AAA that I mentioned. Assess, assemble, action in that exact step, in that exact sequence. And you'll be less frustrated in endgame content. And with every attempt, even if it fails, you'll be able to formulate and improve until you get it. After all, most of the time, in games like these, brute forcing is not something you can rely on. Because brute forcing, in my opinion, is almost synonymous to cheesing. And cheese is not something usually, unless it is really OP cheese, is not something that can be applied in every fight, unless it's really OP cheese. or unless you are willing to use your credit card to get a really good team in these gacha games. This video aims to, like I said, give you the foundation, provide you some building blocks to be able to defeat these encounters, to clear these encounters within reasonable effort and with what resources you have. Thanks for watching, and I hope you learned a thing or three in this video, and I wish you luck with your endgame endeavors and encounters. Let me know in the comments if I did help, and what you would like me to help you with next. See you in the next video, Foxtrot.